Hey guys, welcome to our Minpak workshop series. My name is Oksana and I'm creative director at Minpak, and this is Panda, our emotional support animal. So today we're going to talk about some basic rules that you need to know when creating a website design that's going to be usable for any designers, maybe some developers, but mostly designers. So we're going to go through main rules to keep in mind, most usable practices that you can find, and hopefully use them in your work. Thank you. Let's go. So today we're going to talk about some basic rules in web design, what to look at, what to use in your daily routine to create any type of mock, any type of pages. So it first of all look good, and second of all, that developers basically can work off your mocks. So I separated it to few sections. So first, we're going to talk about fonts. And there are some font rules about the sizing and style of fonts on the website. So basically, the main rule that you should remember and keep in mind always when you start creating the website, that all your headers, all your subtitles, body copy, and font size on CTA is supposed to be the same size. So throughout the website, it can have a different style in it. Like for example, you have headers, like 2 3 styles of headers, 2 3 styles of subtitle, right? So and basically they all have same font size, but for example, different color, or one of them can be bold, the other regular, right? But basically the size of it should contain the same. Same with body copy. So this is a few examples to styles, kind of like a small UI kit guide that I'm creating before passing the mocks to developers that explain and shows basically styles of the headers, subheaders. For example, we have header 2, body copy highlighted, and some of the other type of sub title, right? And for example, if you export it into Zeppelin, they can click on it and see what type of size is it, and all other specs for this. Basically, same with other type of. This is more relevant for type blog type of pages when we have a header type, body copy with link, body copy second title, body copy for example, if you have title with a line, body copy how it looks like. Here I also show spacing between the different blocks. And same thing with CTAs, right? So with CTA you can see the size. It's supposed to contain the same throughout the website and have the same styling. And this is also kind of the font styles for blog type of pages that I'm creating. So when we're creating blog pages, practice area pages with a lot of copy, you need to think about how it's going to be developed. So when guys developing it, they created different types of text blocks with different styles that basically content team after can drag and drop there and use, right? So, and it can be different blocks with different purpose. So for example, list links with title and list of different links to different pages. So this is how it gonna look like. For example, text blocks with bullet points that can look like that, that has header. Copy block with bullet points that doesn't have a header, may look like that. And for example, other type of lists also with bullet points. This is a small guide to font sizes standards to also keep in mind, because it works for every site. And it's kind of a general website, web design rules. So first of all, what you need to know that some of the sizes for desktop and mobile is different. First of all, because in desktop, most of the things, when you create mobile versions, what you need to think of is basically accessibility to it, because fingers of when you're creating any type of elements, CTAs, titles, because basically you need to think about the people with bigger hands than yours. So every element, every CTA link supposed to be clickable, not really small, so people can click on it. So that's why I put together like different standards. First of all, the smallest font size to use for web in general is like 16 points for desktop, and for mobile is like 18. Because if you're using fonts like less than that, it's gonna be very problematic to see it and to read. Like for example, body copy that less than 60 points can be just impossible to read on web, especially with people with like problem vision, right? So you need to think about that. For headers and subtitles, usually for desktop, we're starting from like 26, and to be honest, like there is no maximum based on design. So you can create like use like 200 points, 300 points font size if you want to have like a copy on the whole screen, right? For mobile, it kind of has like highest level, because you need to think that your copy is visible on the screen, plus not taking too much like space, because people want to see as much content as possible. So usually, like I would say 62, but I would not use like more than probably like 56, 54. Same with body copy. So it's like a little bit bigger start, like for mobile and for CTAs as well. Like because of the reason I explained, because it's supposed to be clickable and supposed to be visible. Padding and margin. So this is like a very important type of discussion in general. Basically, for your website, what you need to always keep in mind is that all your sizes and spacing between same type of elements supposed to contain the same in general. And let's talk about the difference between padding and margin. So padding is the space between, like in web design specifically. Padding is the space between the content and the border of an element. So padding is valuable in making additional space inside an element, keeping it in a set of distance from other aspects of the website. So for example, you have a blog that have a title and body copy. It's like one block. So the spacing between header and the like a body copy, gonna call padding, right? And margin is the space around the border of an element. The margin surrounding an element will inform the web browser being used for how much space should be left between independent elements and the external margin of the website's page. So for example, you have two different blocks, right? So first you have a block like about us, for example, with like titles, body copy, images, whatever. And then you have next block with like type form or something. So basically the space between these two blocks is gonna call margin. And this is like a small, just like visual representation of like what margin is, padding, and content. So this is kind of one type of block. So padding is like everything inside, margin everything outside. And basically main rules for that is like I mentioned already, that all your spacing, padding, margin doesn't matter. Between the same type of elements is supposed to be the same. Meaning, like space between all types of blocks, spacing between headers and body copy, spacing like after any type of block, before CTA, after CTA. So all of that is supposed to be the same throughout the website. So you have like a create general rule for yourself, and that you're going to use for the website, and you just stick to it. Usually, didn't put it here, but usually like normal spacing between different types of blocks in general is like 60, 80 pixels. It's like going to be your biggest padding and like biggest margin size. And basically based on like whatever you choose for margin, like for example, is 80. You need to choose like a smaller size for padding. Like for example, between like, you have like 80 in between blocks. Then you have header, like 40 pixels or 30 pixels, body copy, 30 pixels, CTA, 30 pixels, right? So like, and you just basically stick to that rules. This is basically like some example that like we have header, we have body copy and everything that we're gonna have for like second, third, like whatever block type is gonna have the same padding between these two elements, like these two elements, and same with like CTAs. We have this padding, and this padding supposed to contain the same throughout all like website. And also, one important thing to keep in mind is spacing in CTAs and forms. Basically, space before and after text till the borders of CTA should be the same, around 20-40 pixels. And I'll show you. Basically, it's like this space in container, right? So it's not supposed to be like bigger than 30 pixels, 40 pixels top. Usually I do 30, so it like looks the same. And for different CTAs, depends on the copy, it's gonna be smaller or bigger. So it's just like CTA looks good. And basically same for fill forms. This space on the left side before the copy also should contain the same. And usual standards for that is like 20 pixels, but I put 20, 30 pixels here for you. Just depends on the situation. Very important thing to keep in mind. Ruler, and one more time ruler. For every site, we have guides, and we need to use them and we need to stick to them. And basically, this is how guides looks like, right? So basically, every time you create a website, you can just copy one of the marks that has a guide, delete everything else. Guides will stay there. And basically, what to keep in mind when we are talking about rulers. Always use ruler to lay out all elements on the web mark. So every element you like put in it supposed to be on some kind of like line aligned with like a guide that you have. All content all content should be in one container. By this means what I mean by that. So basically, when developers creating website, they creating a container, like one main container that they put all the design in, like kind of, and stick to it. And then in this container, they also can create like different types of like smaller containers, like for example, for body copy, for headers, right? So kind of like where they put in the content in. And basically, usually this is your main container, right, with like a small padding similar from like sites that you pull all your content in, and then you kind of rearrange it inside, but you're not going like over this. Like this type of elements can be like the one that's like on background and you know it's gonna like kind of flying around, can be like outside, but the main like info, CTA, body copy, everything supposed to be aligned by that. And similar types of elements should be aligned with the same ruler. What I mean by that? So for example, you have also supposed to have in your mind some kind of rules for yourself, what type of stylistic blocks you having and using. Like for example, you have this type of style, right? When you have headers aligned by like left, and some kind of like copy block or whatever goes next after that. So all of you like, and the headers had similar like style, font, everything. So basically, this header is supposed to be aligned by one line, and everything else in general, being like one container. So like this is all left aligned, right aligned in the end. Or example, you have this type of like text again. So these elements same, they aligned similarly by each other. Like these elements also like has different style and they align by right everywhere. Now let's do some practice. Okay. So for example, like first of all, that's like a small thing, but it's not related to like a general guides, but kind of like falls under like our guides when we're creating websites. So basically almost every blog, specifically on the homepage, supposed to have some type of CTA. So we want to create as much linkages as possible in general throughout the website. That's why we have this like widgets, like everything, to kind of create this spider map to connect everything together, to keep our user like longer on the website, make him click throughout the website. And specifically for the homepage is some kind of presentation of what person can find on the website, right? So basically, block by block, we're presenting what type of pages, what type of content they can find, some like small preview of the whole website. That's why when we talking about like company, we have like a link it to like about us page. When we talking about some results, we need to link it to like results page, right? And basically when I'm creating CTA, again, so I'm creating the same type of padding in between body copy and CTA. This like block CTA, this space. So for here it's like 40 pixels. And one more example I actually wanted to show. Okay, so for example, I redid this block, right? And the reason I redid it is actually very important in a way. Because here, so thing to keep in mind when we creating the website, when guys developing it, right? So they creating and putting together all types of elements in different blocks and creating like containers for them. So for example, you have container with header. Then you have container with body copy and container with CTA and container with some sort of like image here. So this type of elements not supposed to overlap each other because they're gonna put it as separate boxes when they develop. Different in this scenario, because we can use this image, we can use another image, swipe it out. It's better to separate these blocks so it can be developed and this image, for example, can be swiped. There are other scenarios, for example, like this block, right? When we have elements overlapping with each other. Here is possible because the image is on the background. So we like originally have this idea that this image always going to be a background image with some type of like white overlay, which is not going to overlap the copy. So in these scenarios, we can do some like more interesting layouts. But yeah, so this is two different scenarios where we can like use different types of like layouts. Everything else is dope. And let's talk about type of pages like body copy. Like for example, here, like the thing that I talked about, like CTA, right? So you have like a lot of space here. So for example, I changed it to have like 30 pixels, like before, after. Why I changed the type of the header? Okay, yeah. So basically, this is what I wanted to talk about. That's why I put to get like pull up this page. So when you created this page, again, we need to think about when we're creating the blog page, we need to give as many options for developers with different styles to create different type of blogs that then can be used on like on the content side. And to make in general page looks interesting, we need to have some kind of different styling. Because if we're gonna look at this page, for example, and we're gonna like look through it on the website, it's all look the same in a way, like nothing popping up, nothing like really separating. Like for example, this type of content, right, is like just part of the blog post itself, but this type of blog is a different type of blog because it is kind of like a widget to results page, right? So we want to separate it visually like from everything else. Then, for example, we want to also give options to developers and content team to have different, like for example, colors for the headers. So that's why we can have like black one, or we can have like whatever, like other color. To also give them option to separate different types of content. Then, for example, I also created a few more options for blocks. So for example, you have this style, which is same body copy style as everything else. So again, we want to give a little bit more options. So for example, we have this type of copy with bullets because we also wanted to highlight that. Or we want to highlight some of the copy, like make it a little bit bolder, a little bit more stand out. Like for example, when they're talking about some summary, right, of this like blog. So it's also like, okay, this is going to be our style. For example, they also want to highlight some quote or something. We can also create this type of design that they can use, right, in like their own vision based on content they're creating. Like for example, like again, right? So for example, this highlighted text has the similar size as this, but it has different colors. So basically we, on the development side, when they're gonna create it, they're gonna have, okay, they're gonna have like body copy type like this, body copy bullets point style like this, highlighted body copy text style like this, same, but in blue, in black. So kind of like we're creating this sort of library in one mock for them to use throughout the website for like any type of content they're gonna create, and they're gonna put for like blog posts, practice areas, whatever it's gonna be, but it's gonna have this like library that they're gonna just like reuse. Basically, when we creating the blog post, like usually what I do, for example, I pull up some blog posts that they already have, right? And I'm creating designs, but then I'm like, okay, I wanna show more options for styling. Then I just like reuse the same copy to show more options what we can do with that, right? So kind of here we not really think about showing all the correct content they have, but more like what types of like copy blocks we may have. Also, usually when you create a mocks, it's very important to show some kind of like hovering animations type of things. Yeah, so like if you know that your menu item is going to be like animated, obviously because it's like links, it's supposed to link somewhere. Like on one example, we show how it's going to look when it's hover. And it's like easier to do when you design it, first of all, because when we present it to client, it gives him some kind of like understanding how that's, oh, there's dynamic there, how it's going to look like, kind of easier to imagine. And second of all, like you're just saving your own time for preparing mock for development, right? So because you already have all types of different styles of different elements in one mock. You have like static, you have hovering elements, and like basically developers can just take it from there and use in their work. Like for example, like right, so we're talking about menu items, like icons, like how they're gonna be like if they're like animated. We're talking about like for example, blogs that have imagery on it and it's hovering. There is nothing here actually. Yeah, it's not on this design, but like so for example, for this type of blogs, when we have like blog posts, right? We want to show how it's going to look like when it's static. It's how it's going to look like when we're hovering on like specific block to click on it and to go more. So basically every element that's like clickable or like linked to something, we need to show how it's going to look like also in this type of scenario. I hope that was helpful. Do you have any other questions? So basically the question is why we having this like height of the body copy block like 121 pixels. So basically there is like this space that's kind of external, like extra. So for this specific scenario, developer is not going to look into it because it's like a style guide. So what he's going to look at is like font size, color, font type. Yeah. So and when you're creating design in general, and this is how it's exporting from sketch file to Zeppelin, this is how it looks like. Basically, when you creating the mock, it's really hard, to be honest, to align all like block to like this line, right? Because you don't know, basically what you don't know is what is it like a final copy. Copy can change, whatever.
To like to fix the box size thing.
Yeah. Basically, this is the type of stuff that developers not looking at. What they're looking at is actually because they put in the copy in their own container anyway when they're developing, and then they just have this rule so that, for example, okay, so from the header container to this kind of like container, we have 40 pixels, right? And from this type of container to like CTA, we have like another 30. And they kind of develop it in their own way, like, and they're not really gonna look on the design in this scenario in a way. And also, anyway, when we're doing like QA for web during the build, we're correcting all of that on the spot. So that, okay, this is like the wrong spacing, this is the wrong margin, whatever. So this can be like standard, this is the standard, this is the standard for spacing. And because like, for example, here, like even if you're gonna, like you can't just like when you're creating design, you know, like think about, because sometimes you just place the box and you put a text, and it's gonna take a lot of time to every time do this. You can do this in general, but some.
Not that one. The waterfall. Yeah, that one. And it just fits.
That's something new for me. Like I never used that actually.
Because I was thinking like if we just set kind of the text box to like random size.
Yeah.
And how do you set the
Like basically, I set the merging by doing this, because when you like connecting, it's anyway aligned automatically, kind of. It stick to the copy before, to the block before automatically. Thank you guys, and can't wait for our next type of workshops when we're gonna talk about other different stuff about design, marketing that you can find usable for yourself and helpful, hopefully. So stay with Minpak and watch our other videos.